wasn't sure if I was gonna get up and talk today, but this morning when I woke up, I just started writing, and I wanted to share some things, so. Well, my name is Mary Jane Kruger, and first of all, I wanna thank you all for coming and being a part of this memorial service. I know some cannot make it, like four of her great-grandchildren and her brother, but thank you for being a part of my grandma's life in some special way or another. Just a little information. I was the first granddaughter and the first grandchild born to my grandmother, Betty Jane. Later, my daughter, Amanda Jane, became the first great-granddaughter, and after that, Ryan and Jeannie became the first great-great-granddaughter, as well as the first great-great-grandchild born to our son Matthew and daughter-in-law Mariah Jean. Growing up, I always looked forward to spending time with my grandma, but I think my favorite was spending the night. Both my sister Amy and I have fond memories of that. She would make us really great pancakes with either blueberries, strawberries, or chocolate chips in them. I remember her tucking us in bed nice and tight to the point we couldn't hardly move or get out of bed. We both thought that was funny. It was fun being treated to popcorn mixed with M&Ms, something we didn't get at home. And my favorite game to play with Grandma, and I think yours too, was Trouble, and it is still my favorite. When I was 18 years old, my grandma took me to Arizona over my spring break. On the plane ride over, I became very sick and couldn't stop vomiting. My grandma was very concerned for me and had to wheel me off the plane in a wheelchair and take me to the hospital. After that, she told me she will never ride on a plane with me again. While in college, I would spend the night with my grandma since it was a quiet place to study. She enjoyed listening to the Oak Ridge Boys, and sometimes we would sing along. I remember seeing my grandma spending time reading God's Word when I woke up in the morning. She would talk to me about the Lord, and we would pray together. Even a couple months before she passed, my grandmother and I read scripture and prayed together. I will always treasure that time. Grandma also loved her flowers and birds, and like her mother, she had a beautiful flower garden that she enjoyed taking care of. She also enjoyed painting ceramics when I was growing up. And later on, she worked on making the tie blankets for her great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and others whom she didn't even know. After my children were born, she and my Grandpa Joe would come out to visit us in Redfield. On one occasion, when my daughter Amanda Jane was only 4 years old, she asked if they could take her back home with them. I really didn't want them to take her because she was so young, and my grandma wanted to keep her for a week. My grandma finally talked me into it. Our daughter loved spending time with her great-grandparents and didn't have the heart to tell them, but by the third day, she was missing us. I remember her whispering to me over the phone that she didn't want to hurt great-grandma's feelings by telling her that she wanted us to come to Cedar Rapids. On several occasions, all of us girls would get together and go shopping or to a tea room. Included were my mom, my sister, my nieces, my daughter. And my grandmother loved to cook and bake. She made the best chicken noodle soup, which I still enjoy making her recipe, and pumpkin pie ever. When our son Andrew was a young teenager, he wrote a paper about his great-grandma's pumpkin pie being the best. She loved her great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren and always mailed them cards up until she couldn't remember to do that anymore. I would bring her pictures and talk about them often so she would remember. Just 3.5 weeks before she passed, she was able to meet 2 of her great-grandchildren. It was such a blessing for all of us to visit her. One thing that many of you might not know about my grandmother is that she was actually born on St. Patrick's Day, shortly after midnight, and not on the 16th. It was kind of funny, but since her parents were German immigrants and not Irish, they decided that her birthday would be written down as March 16th. So she came into this world on the 17th of March and left this world exactly 90 years later. I remember telling my grandma many years ago that she had to live long enough to see one of her great-grandchildren get married and have a child. She didn't think that she wanted to be around that long because she would be too old. Well, she was not only able to be with us long enough to see 3 of her great-grandchildren get married, but she also has 6 beautiful great-great-grandchildren. She will dearly be missed, but I know she was getting tired, and she talked about being in heaven with my Grandpa Jim. She really missed him too. And she missed her dog Molly too, which, by the way, my cousin Blake took Molly in, so thank you. She is now resting peacefully and praising God. I love you, Grandma. I think my sister Amy is going to say a few things too. She has some memories. We kind of compared notes this morning, and my sister had a lot of detail written down to her, so I had a lot of the same memories as my sister did that I want to share. Like my sister, spending the night with Grandma, taking a trip to Arizona, and shopping at Westdale and eating at Chick-fil-A were memorable. It would always be my mom, my sister, and my grandma. So I'd like to add she was a wonderful cook. I would look forward to Thanksgiving with Grandma. Her sweet potato casserole with marshmallows was my favorite. The past several years I found myself calling her just to ask her for her written recipe, or just question her about cooking. And after us girls got married, I saw how much she loved her grandkids. She went to their baseball games, church, school musicals. She baked cakes for their birthday parties. Like Mary said, Grandma would send special cards in the mail just to say how she was thinking of them when they were little. My grandma will certainly be missed. I saw in her life how much she loved the Lord. She has been clear that the last several times that we saw her, though, that she was ready to go home to see her Lord and Savior.